Hi, thanks for joining us today. My name is Dave Robinson, and I'm with the Union City Family Support Center, and I represent the Union Township on the Erie County Democratic Committee. I'm here today with candidate Lydia Laythe, who is the Democratic nominee for Erie County Council's 6th District. How you doing, Lydia?
Good, Dave. Thanks for being here.
Lydia, to start off, tell us how, where does the 6th District encompass?
Sure. So Erie County's 6th District includes Edinburgh, Washington Township, Waterford, Union City, Corey, Venango, Amity, Wattsburg. I mean, kind of all that southeastern corner of the county. Great.
And I understand you live in Edinburgh right now, right?
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about your background. I know that you're a social worker by training, but tell us a little bit about your professional work.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. So, right, I'm a social worker, a helper by nature. I have served as a trauma therapist to children and teens in some of the schools, mostly in Crawford County, and I've also worked with previously incarcerated men in Crawford and Erie counties. I've also worked with refugees and immigrants in the city of Erie, and have done some community organizing work, some nonpartisan civic engagement. So a lot of my passion centers around helping people and making sure that our community's needs are met from all levels.
That's great. And speaking from my own experience over the last 10 years working in Union City and the area, there are a lot of problems that need help with, and a lot of struggling families. So yeah. I want to get right into some of your views on some of the bigger issues that are facing us. Southeast County has a very independent streak to it, but it also has very, very specific challenges, especially around child and poverty, and all of the different aspects that go along with living in poverty. I know that you have a background in trauma care. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that and how trauma-informed care might influence policy, county policy, in regards to helping the poor in Southeast County?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I guess to kind of give the context for this, as a social worker, I've always viewed my job is to work myself out of a job. If I'm doing my job right, then I'm not needed in certain spaces. And so as a trauma therapist, if I'm doing my job right, I'm helping people build the skills and tools and connections they need in order to support themselves and manage their stress or manage whatever sort of symptoms they're experiencing on their own, so they get to a point where they don't need me. And a lot of that means also doing the important work of preventing the problems in the first place, right? I mean, as a trauma therapist, I really felt like if I wasn't preventing trauma through my work, then I wasn't doing my job to the fullest. And so that's why I got involved in local politics and community organizing, was because I wanted to prevent trauma and prevent these problems, prevent, poverty and hunger and these kind of like big, almost, overwhelming issues that our communities face. And so when it comes to poverty, I think that there are a lot of things we can be doing both to react to the issue and treat the issue in the here and now, and meet our basic needs today. And that looks like improving broadband accessibility, improving public transportation, improving affordable housing, improving access to social services and healthcare, which is especially difficult in some of these rural pockets of the county where things, tend to be seated in the city of Erie, and so making sure that those are accessible either through satellite locations or through public transportation that can help get us there. But meeting those basic needs, but then also creating trauma-informed policy. That means creating policies that prevent these problems to begin with. So making sure that people have adequate access to educational resources so that they can attain well-paying jobs that can support their families so that children don't have to live in poverty.
A good point, and I want to take you right back to the broadband comment that you made, because one of our biggest challenges out in our part of the county is the lack of access to broadband. And what we've seen, particularly during this COVID epidemic, is that we don't have the ability, because of the lack of broadband, to educate our students when they can't be in school. So families struggle in remote learning. Sometimes they have 3 kids in 3 different classes, all working off of a cell phone hotspot. And it's just not working. You know, the school districts are doing everything they possibly can, but without broadband, we really can't meet those challenges as we move into the future. What are your thoughts about bringing broadband to Southeast County?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I currently sit on Washington Township Council, so we did a lot of looking into how local government can support things like broadband accessibility for students in homes. And I remember being shocked. Just like a month or 2 ago, I was sitting in a meeting and they overlaid 2 maps. One map of the houses in our township that did not have broadband accessibility, and a map of where all the students and staff from schools, from the General McLean School District live. And the amount of overlap of these 2 maps, where here we had students, here we had staff, that had no access to internet. And yet we just finished a whole, like almost an entire year of remote learning.
Right.
And how were we actually doing that if these kids didn't have access to internet?
I want to stay on the remote learning for a moment, because the other issues, you know, as we've spoken, like we have a population who at best, many live kind of on the edge, paycheck to paycheck. What we've seen when schools close down, either for deep cleaning or because of quarantine, because too many people are quarantined, parents who don't have access, because we also don't have access to very much childcare in the area, parents have to make the choice of going to work and leaving their grade school kids home alone, which is, you know, that you can't do that. So they wind up missing work, which means that they, in many cases, they're losing their jobs because of it. So I want to look at broadband as not just an educational tool, but also an economic tool, right?
Yeah,
One,
absolutely.
by keeping people allowing people to be able to have access for school and remote learning, but also how do we build an economy in Southeast County that requires broadband in order to survive?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a younger person entering the workforce, just recently, you know, our jobs are constantly evolving. I mean, kids are going to school now for jobs that don't even exist yet. And that's just kind of the nature of this sort of tech beast that we see evolving around us, and remote working is just another layer of that. And so making sure that our rural communities can plug into this really energizing, really creative, really exciting development that we're experiencing across our country, across the world really, is so important for keeping us plugged into the economy, to make sure that not only can new entrepreneurs, you know, reach their markets and their targets, but that existing local businesses can adapt and flourish and really connect to their consumers, to their customers. I also see it with, you know, growing up in Washington Township, like our local farmers and our family farmers, you know, being able to connect to their customers and being able to market online in a digital age when people are buying so much online and engaging on social media. I think it's so important for our family farmers and our local farms to be able to tap into that, so that they have even a sliver of a chance of competing with some of these corporate farms that exist, and just giving people a fighting chance in this kind of evolving age.
We're still in a pandemic, but over the last 18 months, the COVID pandemic has revealed many issues that maybe weren't as apparent before, especially around equity. And equity works both for rural poor and urban poor. Can you speak for a moment about your views on equity and how County Council plays an important role in achieving equity among citizens?
Sure, yeah. I mean, gosh, equity can be achieved in so many different ways. I think the one thing that just comes to mind as I'm thinking about this is the ways in which achieving equity is like a shared goal across the county. I think so many times we think of these issues as being really isolated. We're either in the city or we're in these rural pockets, but having worked in the city and lived in these rural areas, I've seen both sides, and our issues are the same. Like, they are so similar, right? So for example, talking about broadband accessibility. On Township Council, I'm seeing that we lack broadband accessibility for our families, living out in McCain, or living in Washington Township, or living in, Union City. But we also are lacking broadband accessibility for families in Erie, in the city of Erie. And so understanding that equity can be a universal goal for all of us, and it doesn't have to exclude anyone. I think it's such a narrow-minded view of these issues if you think that in order to achieve equity for one group, we have to exclude another. It's not the case, right? We can do it all together because our needs are really similar, and if we can find creative solutions to address the needs, then we can meet everyone's needs, and no one needs to be excluded.
Exactly. It's not a zero-sum game.
Right.
One person does not have to lose in order for another to win. We can all row in the same direction and all float together. So, which brings me to the ARP, the Erie County is going to be bringing in close to $300 million when you add it all up between what the city's getting, the county's getting, the school districts are getting, the municipalities are getting. And there's been a lot of talk and some good pre-planning work done within the county on how do we use this money to really build back better, as the president says, but also to address some of the inequities that were very apparent during COVID and long-standing in both the county and the city, but also how do we move our county forward by using the ARP money now as a down payment on that future? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of thoughts on that, so bear with me. So absolutely, I don't want to be repetitive, but broadband accessibility, we need to be funding that. We need to be giving that the attention it's due. We need to be supporting public transportation. We need to be investing in affordable housing for people, for families, for single parents, for young people that, we see our county losing young people left and right. Well, we need to have housing for them to stick around in. And we need to be investing in social services and programs that are preventative. That's like the biggest thing for me. It costs us way more when we have to pick up the pieces of people's lives after the fact. We can invest less money, be more progressive and more proactive if we do preventative work and education and programming to support people before they hit rock bottom. And so I think that's really, those are the main things that I think about when I think about ARP.
Those are all important. Thank you. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to give you a chance to answer the typical question that you ask a candidate: why are you running?
Yeah. I mean, that perfectly fits into what I was just saying. I have seen what it looks like on the ground. I think any helper could probably tell you that when you work in a helping profession, whether that's social work, whether that's counseling or nursing, you almost live multiple lifetimes because you see it through so many different people's eyes, and you work with so many different people with different experiences. And so I feel like I've lived so many lifetimes of people's struggles because I've heard it from so many different places and seen the struggles we face, and I've picked up the pieces of people's lives after some of the most horrendous traumatic experiences. And I'm so tired of having to do that. I really want to get to a place where we can implement policy and support programs that prevent these problems from happening in the first place. So that way no one has to pick up the pieces of their life after trauma of any kind, whether that's abuse or violence or a natural disaster, right? Like, what can we be doing to prevent these problems? And County Council can do a lot of that. They can put funding towards preventative work and can really help support our community so that we're not picking up the pieces, but we're actually moving forward and we're actually growing and thriving instead of just surviving. And so that's why I'm running for Erie County Council, and I hope that I can count on your vote on November 2nd. And if you're interested in learning more about me, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at elect Lydia Laythe. Or you can email me at electlydialaythe@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for sitting down today. Thank you very much.
Yeah.